Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope this finds you well and you enjoyed your little break from me on Thursday. Obviously, I wasn't here last week. Had to postpone, unfortunately, due to circumstances. Things occasionally crop up. In fact, in this case, it was a church meeting of church leaders here in Auckland, actually, to talk about issues confronting the city, from loneliness to homelessness. So actually really important and good to be there. But welcome to Solid Ground. This is actually the 98th episode. So next Tuesday will be the 100th episode of Solid Ground, which in itself I think is quite amazing. Because since the day that we had the idea, or Bob had the idea, and then we brainstormed the name, it was hard to think that it actually would get to, 98 episodes. And that's because largely of you guys and the growing listeners and viewers, which is actually very, very humbling. Look, welcome, though, to Solid Ground, particularly to anyone who's new. This is where I talk the political, the cultural, the social issues of the day from a proudly conservative viewpoint. But it's a live show. I'm live here in Auckland on this actually beautiful day. I'm live, which means that you can make comments and, suggestions, thoughts, questions. If you're on the Family First Facebook page or Family First YouTube channel. This is streaming across an array of platforms, including my own Facebook page and the likes. It's on Substack, it's on X. Welcome. It's great to have you along. Comments I'll see afterwards. But again, if you want your comments to come through to me live in the studio, be on the Family First Facebook page and YouTube channels. And then like Harrison, you can, he's letting me know he was watching another show last night called Straight Talk. We were discussing whether we should ban social media for under 16-year-olds. And Harrison, I'd see there you're 50-50, which is actually not a bad place to be. It's not an absolutely straightforward question. Today, actually, I'm going to be touching on a wide array of issues: the good, the bad, the absurd, and the ugly. I'll just say quickly, good morning. We've got Nigel there, and Lynette, good morning. See, we've got Darren as well, Mike, and they've got, see, down in Invercargill is meant to be lovely, as is Talbot. It must be actually a great day, as Philip is telling us it's lovely there in the Coromandel. Murray's saying good morning. Look, wonderful people. Is it Ellen? Sorry, it's such small writing for me. I apologise, Ellen, if I'm getting this wrong. But I don't have our little foster child anymore. She's moved to her wider family. It's also worked out at a good time insofar as Rachel and I have downsized, so we don't have room for her. But that wasn't the reason she left. She was being slowly introduced to her wider family, which is lovely. Okay, Mike is telling me my microphone's a bit low, so I'm just upping that. Thank you very much. Good morning. Oh, we've got Strong in him as well. Mosgiel. Oh, that's I've only visited there once. That's where the Catholic seminary used to be for Mosgiel. Yeah, it was a seminary. I'm getting it all mixed up, but anyway, there was one. I know the Mosgiel. Jarena, good morning. Food, dogs, trucking to ask me to get presents. Will you get my presents? I'll be around. How's that? That's terrible, isn't it? It's the worst. Rosie's asking, do you think the Māori Party will make it? Actually, I think they will. But whether or not, and here's the classic political answer for you, Rosie, I think it will. But it may be also split off from. In other words, you may end up with two parties, although we can see Māoridom in general is doing all it can to try and pull it back together in one shape or another. Otherwise, you're going to end up seeing the Māori vote split, and that's a huge, huge problem. And look, good one. Look, all the good mornings are piloted. It is lovely to have you all here, guys. Oh, lovely rondel there of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, Catherine. Fantastic. Now, look, as I say, there's sort of the good, the bad, the strange, the ugly, the weird today, and I'm not talking about myself. I thought I'd start with something. Let's see if... There we go. This is good news coming out of Monaco, where they have said, that the prince, God, I'm getting that wrong, it's a principality. The prince has said he's not going to sign into law an abortion bill. So Monaco is probably best known through James Bond as a little principality. It's not a full state. It's a little principality in the south of France. So it's not part of France, but that's where it's located. The Formula One is there, of course, as I say, James Bond, the casinos, the beautiful boats, and so forth. But Prince Albert, who rules the principality, let's just call it the country, let's keep it easy, has said no to a new abortion bill that has been put forward. He said that Monaco is proudly Catholic, and that's what he's going to draw his inspiration from. And I just thought that was a great win. I think it was a great win for life there in Monaco, and great to see actually a leader standing up firmly for life. So I thought this was good news. It's news you won't hear in New Zealand. Hence, we have the likes of Solid Ground and Daybreak with Bob on alternate mornings to actually let you know what is happening around the world. So kudos to Prince Albert there in Monaco of saying no, as it says in the title, no to an abortion bill, and he's going to defend unborn life. He says it's not, abortion is not part of Monaco's culture, it's not part of its Catholic ethos, its Christian ethos. So I think that's really, really good. And as Murray's noting, well done. And it is. I think it's, again, a small pushback, which is important. But also, as you note, well, I noted, you won't see this reported in New Zealand's media in any way, shape or form, which I think is quite sad. Into the sort of more ridiculous camp, this is coming out of Northern Ireland. So religious education taught in Northern Ireland has been deemed unlawful by the Supreme Court there in the United Kingdom. Now there's lots and lots of nuances in this, but it started where one parent did not like their child attending RE classes. Now, of course, like here in New Zealand, the school said, well, she, I think it was a she, can go elsewhere. We can put her in the library or another opportunity. But the parent insisted that no, that made the child feel isolated. And because they therefore couldn't be isolated, the parents said, no, you can't take them out of RE, but I don't want them in RE, religious education. They went off to court and he's won. The parent has won. And so the Christian focus in religious education is going out the window in Northern Ireland. It's no longer allowed to teach the religion of its isles. Instead, I suspect, and I want to underline that word suspect because I don't fully know, it's a relatively new ruling, it'll be some bland mixture, a buffet, if you will, of sort of world religion. So you replace religious education with a cursory glance over most of the world's religions. Now, there is a place for that, I should stress. It's actually not harmful to learn about other religions. Did a lot of that when I studied at university. It actually is good to understand why Islam is different to Christianity, or it's different to Buddhism or Shintoism, Zoroastrianism, and so forth. It's not actually a bad thing to know, because not all religions are the same. But I think it's just sad for at least two reasons for Northern Ireland. One, again, Christianity, a Christ-focused religious education program in Ireland is normal and natural, just as if you were to learn Islam if you were in Saudi Arabia or Iran. And that's the second point too. I think we're going to end up with false teachings to young people that makes all religions equivalent. They're not. All the religions around the world have their differences, and significant differences at that. And I don't know about you guys, I get quite tired of being told that, there's just, there's God, and there's just all these various ways of talking about him. Again, be it Buddhist, Shinto, is it Christian, Islamic, and so forth. That's a very fundamental flaw. Religions, we have different religions because we have different views. We have different cultural takes. And actually we can observe around the world how these different religions manifest themselves. Some well, some not so well, some terrible. And so I just think equivalizing it, making it equivalent for all these kids is not right. And I think maybe the third point, which I didn't think of at the start, is it's okay to be proud as a Christian. It's okay to be a Christian country. It's good to have a foundation. And I think part of what we're seeing here is the West, is it not quite imploding, but it's losing its confidence in its institutions, its faith. You don't need me to tell you, but actually Judeo-Christian values have underpinned the West. Our human rights our freedoms, our liberties are based from a Christian ethic. They are not based from the ethics of other religions. There'll be some crossover, but not much. And that's why you do have different domains in the world. So I don't think it's bad for us to be proud of our Christian heritage, be it here in New Zealand, but certainly when you think of Ireland, you'd think it would be. Fourth Adam is, I think it is. I think society is allowing this more and more. And I say literally this is through one parent, which, that's not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing. The law is there, whether it's to be supported by 1 or 1 million people, but it's amazing. One parent doesn't like religious education, which in itself, isn't it ironic? The parent who doesn't like religious education clearly has, in this case, an anti-religion view, an atheist view, which is a religious view in my, because it's held with such fervency. That's what I'm going to get at. The atheist father who wanted to withdraw his daughter is so fervent in that atheism. It's an equivalent of a religious belief. Is quite sad. Oops, and I've clicked the wrong button. It doesn't matter. I am still here. I thought this was ironic. I thought this was quite ironic as a story for a very simple reason. And it's not because it's a basilica or so on, but I just thought, because all about climate change. So yes, I am stirring the pot. I am walking into the climate change discussion here. But much in this article is made about this 3rd century basilica, which has been found in Turkey, which in itself I think is amazing if you're into archaeology, and I quite like it. I'm not an archaeologist, but I quite like archaeology. I think is pretty cool. But they're making a big deal. They're making a very big deal around how this basilica has been uncovered by the waters of climate change coming back. Excuse me. So the basilica has been exposed as a lake receded. And those talking about this topic are saying to themselves, hey, this is climate change at work. It's climate change. How could you have this basilica exposed if the water had not receded? What they don't seem to be thinking about is how did the water get there in the first place? Because I can tell you this basilica was not built underwater. This basilica was built on land, and then lo and behold, hundreds of years ago, the water came up, rose up, and flooded said basilica. And now it's receding. And so look, I don't want to make this a huge discussion of climate change per se, but I just found it's that stupid reporting, if I could just phrase it as bluntly as that stupid reporting, which only wants to emphasize one side of the coin. Oh, water has receded from this site. We can now see the basilica. It's climate change, without suggesting, actually, you don't build underwater. There would have been a time that the water rose and actually flooded it. So that's what you call climate. And lo and behold, the climate changes over time. Anyway, Harrison's saying is that the seawater's low. Yeah, well, that's what they're saying, and that's what's clearly happened. But the point is, as well, they didn't build underwater. This is a church that was built on land, and then hundreds of years later, the water rose and swamped it. Climate change comes and goes. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a debate around how much influence man and humans are having, but it's just the shrill nature of this reporting. Just looking for my next one. This was a very sad story that Bob actually just sent through to me this morning. This is here in New Zealand. This guy pictured, his name's Kenneth Law. He's a Canadian who basically sends packages of drugs, pharmaceuticals, to help people kill themselves. So look, this is a heavy topic. I'm going to be talking about suicide briefly, or more about euthanasia. So long and short, this Savannah Oric here in New Zealand got one of his packages and died by suicide. I suppose why I'm raising it, firstly, I mean, it's absolutely tragic for Savannah's family, and obviously for her. Good to know that this death advocate, Kenneth Law, is currently awaiting trial in Canada, because he's, I think, facilitated the death of over 100 plus people. But the interesting thing here is when you read about Savannah's choices, a lot of it obviously linked to mental health. But the problem is for pro-euthanasia, pro-assisted suicide advocates here in New Zealand and around the world, is why is her death a criminal tragedy? but the euthanasia deaths which they facilitate are not. I don't have to actually answer that question. It's a question, as I say, for pro-euthanasia advocates. Savannah clearly made this decision. Coroner outlines that, yes, she would have struggles post-relationships, but she was planning this. She had thought it through. She'd communicated with her boyfriend, obviously had the wherefore to obtain the drugs, chose the motel of her choice, a room of her choosing, and then ended her life. For me, absolutely tragic, as I see any death. But that's the challenge to the pro-euthanasia advocates here in New Zealand. Why is her death a tragedy, but not the terminally ill or the disabled person? What's the difference? Because she made a choice. It's her autonomy. She was able to exercise her will. All the arguments that you hear from a pro-euthanasia advocate apply here. Yes, she had mental health, but I can tell you, having been around the deathbed of many people, it's a time of great mental struggle, anguish as well. So what's the difference? That's the question, really. And I can see some comments coming through about it is exceptionally sad, and also the double standards is a double standard. It's that lack of consistency, which is why I share the story. And I want to underline the fact that her death is a tragedy. I'm glad that this Kenneth Law fellow who's in the photo has been arrested and will face justice. But again, the challenge is to those who support euthanasia. Why is this young woman's death a tragedy, and a criminal tragedy at that? But their advocacy for the killing of the elderly, the sick, and the disabled is not that is to be accepted, because we have other Kenneth Laws in this country who practice euthanasia, but are protected from the law. So, it's a myriad of ethical problems there for the pro-euthanasia advocates, which is why I share it. Thought we should quickly touch on puberty blockers. It's been a bit of the topic du jour, or not really du jour, of the week, since the announcement. Cabinet last week decided that they would block puberty blockers, which is a very awkward sentence from me right there. And this picture's up for a reason. So a great decision by the government to ban puberty blockers. It's a win, if I might, for common sense. You don't pump young children filled with toxic drugs, or in this case hormones, and go, oh, nothing's going to change. Well, of course everything is going to change, and we know that there's a developing amount of evidence that these are harmful to children. Now that is still debatable. I think it's important to underline that. But one of the most fundamental things we know are the lies. I mean, the first and foremost, there are no trans children. That is a terrible message to be putting to children, to suggest to them that they are in the wrong body, that they've been born wrong, there is something wrong with them. I mean, all that negativity which comes from the gender ideologist is in itself appalling. There are just actually beautiful children born a biological man or a biological woman. And yes, completely understand there are people who have distress, if you will, at that, but you don't keep telling them that there's something wrong with them. You first and foremost affirm them for who they are. And that's the paradox in this great debate, isn't it? Because the gender theorists and the trans activists always rage against what they deem conversion therapy, which is having conversations with people. But they don't see the hypocrisy that they are the ones literally trying to convert people. And that's the second part of it, because this is a conveyor belt. Once a child, and again, let's stress the word, it's a child, is put on puberty blockers, it's effectively a conveyor belt into cross-sex hormones and eventually treatment, medical treatment, including the mutilation of their bodies, cutting off their breasts, cutting off, appendages. I'm trying to think of the appropriate word this time in the morning. Of course, the gender advocates use euphemisms. It's now top surgery. They don't talk about a mastectomy. They don't want to confront the reality of the horrendous activities that they're undertaking. But that's one of the issues with puberty blockers. It's a conveyor belt. And that's the second lie, which is often fed to parents, that, oh, well, your child will end up killing themselves. They'll commit suicide if they're not on these pills. Again, that's just a bald-faced lie. It's good that the government's confronted that, and actually governments around the world have, because the evidence does not show any difference, actually, around suicide ideation for young people, often with an issue around their perceived gender. What we do know, in fact, is more often than not they have a whole host of underlying mental health conditions, depression, anxiety, there's autism. All of that is ignored. They're just pumped filled with drugs, and I think it's just absolutely appalling. Yes, I can see. Sorry, Fourth Adam has put a great comment. I said de jour, so the French for the day, and I was struggling at the moment to think about what the French was for week, so de semaine. So yes, I should have got that right. So absolutely the right call, but what's come out of the UK at the moment is something called the Pathways trial that's run by King's College in London, which is basically going to continue the experimentation of puberty blockers on children. And I thought I'd just put this up because this is the image that they're using to associate with their study. And I'd think, well, it's a beautiful picture, but doesn't it just encapsulate the lies, which is puberty blockers? This is just a beautiful, bucolic setting, this rural setting, curving paths. Everything's just lovely and bright and simple. Nothing could be further from the truth, again, for what these young people are going through. And two, what this trial is suggesting it will undertake, which is long and short, is going to take, I think, up to 500 young people, children, under 12 years of age, so children, little children really, and half of them they'll pump full of puberty blockers, and the other half will basically be placebos, and then they're going to monitor what happens. I mean, they are literally, deliberately experimenting on children with experimental drugs for which they do not know solidly the impacts. They do not know whether this will cause harm, and they admit it. I mean, this is again reason why governments are banning puberty blockers. It's why many doctors, apart from the radicals who make money out of this or get a kick out of it for some rather perverse reason, people are saying these are not good for children. There are problems with child's emotional development with the use of them, bone density, often sterility. These are serious problems. But this Pathways trial, again, this beautiful picture, it's just all so simple and easy, is proposing, has been approved to allow these chemicals to be pumped in to children. And I see a comment here about Joseph Mengele, that's the infamous Nazi doctor. And I personally see I've said it a few times actually, I see these gender activists, these doctors who are involved with what they call gender-affirming care are just modern-day Mengeles. And I think society will see them for that in the future. I think actually the walls are falling down around this supposed treatment of what they're doing to these children. And I think society, and whether it's 10, 20 or 50 years, will look back in absolute horror. And it is certainly my hope that those doctors, editors of newspapers who promote, face justice. Because what they're doing, again, this picture just sums it up for me. I mean, maybe I'm over reading into it, but again, this is just meant to look like just so simple and almost comic. But you are talking about a trial here which is deliberately seeing whether or not the drug's going to harm the child or not. They are experimenting on children. There is no evidence that these things work. There is growing evidence that it does children harm, but they've gone here in the UK, oh, well, let's just give it a whirl. Let's see what happens. We'll do lots and lots of testing to make sure it's, we're keeping an eye on things. But we know from our own stories of our detransitioners, and I don't know if you guys have gone to the YouTube, it's actually much, much higher than 550,000. I think we're getting close to 1 million views now. This is Izzy and Zara. These are New Zealand detransitioners. They can talk about their experiences in this space, and profoundly so. But have you noticed there is no coverage of them here in New Zealand? They are being censored. The content that we've created with Zara and Izzy here at Family First is all very public. As I say, you can all jump on to YouTube and see it. Nothing. We're seeing nothing. Instead, we are, and RNZ leads the way. This is just one of the RNZ, Radio New Zealand's articles. Pro-trans, pro-puberty blockers at the height of biased reporting. And I keep using the word, and I'm on these talks and straight talk on Monday nights and political playback on a Thursday. It's just corrupt. It's absolutely corrupted. And Radio New Zealand is one of them at the forefront. It is just atrocious reporting because it's never balanced. As I say, you've got people like Izzy and Zara, you've got Family First, you've got Penny Marie from Let Kids Be Kids. There are many groups that can speak into this space. I mean, particularly Izzy and Zara, they've lived this directly, who can talk about the harms of puberty blockers, who can talk about the reality of gender affirming care. But does Radio New Zealand come to them, or to us, or to other advocates in this space? The short answer is no. Instead, like this particular article, is just a puff piece pushing lies over and over again. And so you see once again the media, and it won't surprise you after you think back on a number of events, from the COVID days, the cannabis reforms, or attempted cannabis reforms. The media goes out of its way, the mainstream media goes out of its way to misreport, misrepresent. Quite terrible. Quite terrible. So guys, I'm going to leave it there for this morning because it's almost 8 o'clock. Hey, it's wonderful to be back. As I say, I was at that conference last Thursday. This is episode 98, so obviously Thursday is 99. I look forward to having episode 100 next week, which tells you, of course, I'm still going to be around. So remember, we've got political playback coming on Thursday night. Bob and I will be there. And also, I've just published this Substack this morning called Cold Water. It just talks about how the political class, of course I was part of it for a while, although I tended to go a little bit rogue. This talks about how political classes and the media often pour cold water over significant issues happening in New Zealand. So check that out. Make sure too that you know that you can always go to the Family First website and you can watch, read and listen all in any of our content. Bob, of course, will be on tomorrow morning with Daybreak. But in the meantime, guys, I just hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I look forward, as I'm looking for my outro music, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday and look forward to, chatting again here on Solid Ground come Thursday morning.